Welcome back to Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed. This is Juliette Hahn here with my co-host, Brent Sopel. How are you?
The wheels on the bus go round and round.
Isn't it like, is that Big Ben? Big Ben. Big Ben. What movie is that where they kept going around? Chevy Chase was in it. And it's like, oh, there's Big, I know, my words are.
What the fuck are you talking?
I said, you don't know what movie I'm talking about? National Lampoon's Vacation. Haha. Thank you, universe. It's Chevy Chase. They literally go around and it's like Big Ben, Parliament, Big Ben, and they can't get off this. It's almost like Groundhog Day. Like they can't get off this loop. That's right. Because you actually, I want to say 3 episodes ago, did this Wheels on the Bus. And now what I want the listeners to kind of correlate Wheels on the Bus when Brent is like, I can't say if I'm good, if I'm not good. I am going around in a circle.
My mentality is about a 4-year-old right now, fried with, and that's what it refers to. I can't think much, further than that over the last, 7 weeks of, from, getting ready for the golf tournament and still literally haven't stopped. So,
and then the Stanley Cup dinner, and which we've recapped. So we are in November now. We're recording at the end of October, just for reference.
Is mind blowing.
It's more than mind-blowing. It really is. Wait, you need to fix your screen. You're like a little person again. And I know you already did it a little bit, but that's much better. Okay.
Am I still little?
No, but I looked like a giant human. So yes, and I am struggling today as well. So this is going to be an interesting conversation. But I have to say, time and time again, the last couple weeks, people just coming and asking questions and things that we're learning, which I want to go back to like one of the episodes way in the beginning when someone asked you, or we were talking about how do you educate yourself? And you're like, I don't educate myself. And I went, wait, no, that's not true. And you said it was like there was like a flippant thing there. And I was like, okay, first of all, that's so not true. You know more about this world. You might not be reading it in a book. Like you went back to reverting to school. Like, no, I don't do it that way. You learned so much from people, from doing your own research. And that is kind of what we wanted to talk about today, because the conversation that you had with a family in Illinois, is it Illinois or Illinois?
Illinois.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to put an S on it. I mean, I know there isn't. I know there is.
Here. Oh, Harris.
Oh, okay. Everyone's like, "What's O'Hare's?" Is it a bar? I'm sure there is a lot of bars. O'Hare's. Sure. Yeah.
Every dyslexic.
Totally. Yeah, my brain is not firing correctly today, and we're just going to leave it at that. But you had an interesting conversation after a child. I mean, because again, you guys, if you're jumping in right now, a lot of times people will reach out to Brent to ask for help on kind of decoding their IEP. Their neuropsych, and then be asking like, what accommodations have you seen that have helped? That is one of the things that like we get asked all the time. Okay, what helped your kid? And we're always like, well, okay, it's interesting that the teachers, what did they say? And then when they sometimes, with child study teams or whatever, we're always interested in like, okay, well, you're going to add this because this is what you need.
Well, that neuropsych is basically a doctor's report.
Exactly.
I always say, you need help understanding what that neuropsych is. I can take it out of the doctor terms and put it into normal person terms.
Yes.
As you're sitting in a doctor's office, they're using all these big words, no matter if it's ortho or what is that? I don't understand those words are. So you take these doctor terms and you go to school and you hand it to people that still don't know what they are. Probably the results aren't going to be good. So I take, read that and try and take out a doctor terms and put them into normal person terms. Because you always have to remember, school's a business. They don't care about your kid.
It hurts. It hurts. It really hurts.
Yeah. They do not care about your kid. Business first. They've got X amount of dollars to work with. And if they need to lie to save dollars, 100% they will. Now, I just found out, in Illinois, in 2022, they passed, I can't remember what the hell it's called. But now here in this state is if you go outside of the school and get a neuropsych, when you bring it back to the school, again, this is only in public schools. Private schools, no matter what kind of private school it is, they have the option to do whatever they want. They're not getting funded by the federal government. So they have the control to do whatever they want with your kid. They don't have to listen to you. They don't have to give them the resources. They can do whatever they want. So this is only with public schools that you bring that neuropsych. And before, neuropsych had weight is, I got a doctor. You go to the doctor if you're sick. Oh, here's a doctor note. Right? They listen to it. Now they don't. Now the school special ed team, the school psychologist has to administer 6 or 7 tests, evaluations, and then they'll take a look at their neuropsych and they'll make their determination on what your kid will get for resources.
In the state of Illinois.
Nice.
Thanks. I appreciate the encouragement. Can you, and I know we've talked about this, but just remind me, can you use the word dyslexia in the words? Okay.
Yeah. But now it doesn't matter. Because again, a lot of the schools, again, this just came up when one school, they're like, nope, we need to do our tests. This is it. We need to do our evaluations before we make any determination. You'll get some that will work with you, with what that is. Okay. No, because they're trying to save money. But, the biggest thing here is the school psychologist, special ed, none of them have these learning disorders. So they have zero clue what you're talking about. Second of all, now they're overriding what a doctor is saying, which is contradicting what everybody else is talking about in the dyslexic world, because all you talk about is research. We're research. We got our PhD. We're a doctor. This is what it is. Oh, but now you're not listening to us? So which one do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Which cake? You want your cake and eat it too?
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I'm going to clarify, when Brent says not anyone has it, remember, he's very black and white. So he is saying the majority of the individuals don't have the learning style. Nope. And so it is like, okay, it's what they read out of a book and stuff like this. My question, and I would love for someone, if you're listening and you know this. So we've talked about in the past about the neuropsychologist, what it takes to get to be a neuropsychologist. It's like a little bit more than some of these other practices when you're in school. You don't make as much. And so we had dove into that a little bit on one of the episodes, and we were really surprised by it. And was like, okay, this is so interesting, because some states you have to have an outside, like in Connecticut. And this is, again, when Montgomery was in 3rd grade. He's now a freshman in high school. So I have not looked if someone's like, that's wrong. I'm saying what it was back in the day. He had to get a neuropsychologist to give him the diagnosis of dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia and ADHD for him to get any services in Connecticut. And you were allowed to put those on the IEP. So like on his IEP, it was allowed. And then we moved to New York and they're like, we're taking all that away.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, they took it all away in New York is because if you have those on your IEP and on your diagnosis, then it means you have to have a certain amount of reading specialists. You have to have a certain amount of accredited teachers to be able to teach those kids. So New York as a whole, you can't say it. It just says specify learning disability. And as you guys have heard me,
as we talked about a couple weeks ago, we just found that out.
Yeah, there's tons of states that do that. And that just hurts the kid. It hurts the teacher, right? Because it's like specified learning disability. What is that? Like, yeah. What is that? What do you mean? Like, oh, do they have the 5 Ds or is it something completely different?
You go with that
yeah. So the whole thing, as Brent said, it is a business. This is being thought about in the upper echelon or whatever, upper businesses. Again, I can't speak today, but like up the top, I always say like, who is sitting there going, that's a good idea? Well, I don't feel like people are really, it seems so simple. Like
and this is the thing. Those people up there, I'll give them credit, are trying. They don't have it, right? I've never come across as a special ed teacher. I've never come across any of them to myself as come across interaction with any of them that have had the 5Ds.
Right. And I have. And so that's why I always say to him, well, there are, because I have, but you have not. Right. Correct.
So we're talking very small percentage, right? That have it. You go up top, everybody that you're talking about, they don't have these. So they think they're doing something good. It's simple to us. And we got ways to simplify things and break things down to make it better. But they don't understand what we are saying. We're talking gibberish, but it's costing money. It's costing kids self-esteem. It's costing kids lives. It's costing the world. Mm-hmm. When it could be very simply changed, again, not simply, but it could be changed for something so much better if there's just more understanding, compassion from that top. They weren't getting fed bullshit from these people that are trying to make money off kids.
Yeah. And the business part, it doesn't matter the relationship you have with your school. You've heard my story. I was like, no, they're going to totally, what are you talking about? They love Montgomery. That's all I hear. We're like pillars of the community. Why wouldn't they help us? And that was very eye-opening. That, like, as I said, that hurt my feelings really bad. And it takes a lot to hurt my feelings. And that happens all the time. And when parents are not educated because they don't know what to ask or they don't know what to do, it's a frustration. You feel like you are on an island by yourself. No one really seems to understand, even if people are like, oh yes, this is what you need to do. It is like a fire hose being sprayed at you as you're going through this journey, and it's not comfortable. It's not fun. Sure. It is awful. Lots of mental health happens with parents as they're trying to help the kids. And, just last weekend, I had a mom ask me because of the podcast, okay, I heard that your son went to a dyslexic school. She's like, I've heard mixed things. And I said, oh, have you been talking to Brent? And I said to her, listen, I said, there's so many different things. I also had another call with a dyslexic school that was asking me about funding or something like this. And it's not specifically a dyslexic school, but it is someone that started a school, realized there was a need. And all teachers are asking is like, we just need the resources to be able to help these kids. Now, the school that Montgomery went to, it was brilliant for him. And so I can talk about my experience, but my experience is not everyone's experience, because I have, friends that they spent the money and it wasn't the right place for their kid. I mean, that was when we were looking at schools. There was 2 different schools that we were choosing from, and we really listened. Montgomery's like, I feel so much better in this one school. I really don't feel better in this one. And we were like, okay, let's do that. We were just very fortunate. It's not for everyone. And so everyone has to do it, because it is very, we had to sue the school district because of the amount of money that there's so much that goes behind it. And so in certain public schools, if there's the education, the understanding of the parent and the teacher, and there's something that, and again, this happens for some people, right? We've talked to some people that are like, my elementary school is okay. It's all of the different severities of your 5Ds. There's so much that goes into it. So the more knowledge you have, the more power you have, the more understanding, the more questions you can ask. But there's no right or wrong for every kid. And that's what is difficult, even though sometimes we're like, it seems so easy. That's what's difficult.
And I always talk about trying to give both sides, right? To this, my kids never went to, I never went to, obviously, a school specific for, or, dyslexia, or, school for specific for learning disorders. But again, the communication, the contact, the conversations I've had with people, to the same thing as the special ed teacher, a lot of those principals, deans, call them, whatever you want, teachers still don't have the 5Ds. So people think I'm spending X amount of dollars on the school, my kid's going to be okay. It's not that cookie cutter.
Right.
That I had one story from another parent. They don't have it, so it's just not that easy. They're going to go there and be okay. No, you have to understand that there's a good chance that whoever's leading that school, call it whatever, principal, or the district, or that teacher, doesn't have that same learning disorder that your kid has. So they don't have that full understanding.
No, they learned it out of a book.
Right. So it's, as I talk to parents about, about this, it's, you just have to understand, because everybody falls in that same trap as you just mentioned. Oh, they love my kid. They're going to help me. It's even more of a business when you're going to a school like that. Mm-hmm. Than going to a public school.
Right.
They don't have to abide by anything. They abide by their rules. And your kid is, not number one. And the other problem I have with them is a lot of those schools, you have to fall in between a certain threshold mm-hmm. for them to accept you. If your kid is below that or above that, they're not going to take your kid, because they want the numbers to keep saying we're graduating X percent, or we're doing this at X percent. If you don't fall in there, so again, your kid doesn't matter. It's right. Are they in between those numbers? That's why when I talk about these kind of schools, that people know that, because they don't know. They don't know why they didn't know these. They never heard any of these. So it's going into a situation with information. That's knowledge is powerful. I always say, walk in that situation knowing, or if your kid's in that school, always having that in your back of your mind So when they ever come to you with a problem or something's going on, at least you're thinking about that. You're able to hear. If you're thinking about that, you're able to hear things in a few different ways than you would if you didn't know what that information was.
Mm-hmm. And I think what you said is really important for parents to hear, because a lot of times they don't know this, is that like your kid has to test in. Some of the schools actually even talk to the public school. They want to talk to the teachers. So like if your kid is a little bit of a behavior problem, if like, that this is something that happened later. And I had this with a friend in the town I was, and her kid was really struggling, was a little bit later diagnosed, and he couldn't get into any of the schools. And she was like, oh my, like heartbroken. I felt so badly because there's so many things that go into it. I mean, finances, it is ridiculous. And it's a tiny percent. So then all of the people, for the most people, cannot afford these schools. Mm-hmm. And if they can, it's again, it's the have and have nots, the things that's happening with the world. It just keeps making it bigger and bigger. And then not only, as you said, sometimes, okay, you're like, okay, financially I can, but then your kid maybe doesn't get in because you do have to take tests. And it is a stressful, so stressful. I mean, I remember when Montgomery, and again, I thought this was our only option, but he couldn't, the public school was failing him. And it was like very obvious. It was like, okay, you guys, I know you keep saying he's making jumps, but these kids are all now reading to learn. He's still learning to read. And what great, like, what are you talking about? And it was this, oh my God, I just need a place that can help, right? I don't, and all you want to do is save this child's self-esteem. And that's all you want to do. You want to save this child's self-esteem. And so you think, okay, this is good. And I will say one of the things, and I'm going to hold him to it because now I'm even saying it. Montgomery is going to come on with my nephew, Bradley, in the winter after winter break, after their first year. We had a really great conversation. I had a really great conversation with both of them, like the first couple weeks of school. And I was saying, like, how is it going? And they were like, oh my gosh, okay. We were kind of ahead of our dyslexia. They both have had tutoring and Montgomery with the school and all of these different things. And they were like, holy crap. I was like, right. Like I knew this was going to happen, right? It's going to happen. So they were telling me things that they remembered about their dyslexia, their what all these different things. And so I said to them, I want you guys to come on and talk to Brent and I. And they both said, yes, they were going to do it together. So they're going to be able to talk kind of about their young journey. But one of the things Montgomery touched on, and he said, I do remember realizing when I was in the lowest reading group in this school, but the girl that I was with couldn't read and she was there since kindergarten and I got in at third grade. He goes, I remember realizing, oh my gosh, okay, I'm not, and he didn't use this word, but I'm not the dumbest. There's someone else. And then he felt bad about it. He's like, Mom, she can't read at all. Like, I didn't realize that someone can't read at all. So there was a familiarity. I think I said that right. Knowing that you weren't trying to hide from other people because everyone kind of struggled the same way. Everyone was talking in the hall. Everyone was doing things. So there is that part. But then there's parts that like once he started jumping and was like, okay, I'm, because it is so much work. He was so tired, so many different things that parents have to think about. And so if we can educate the parents, right? And if the parents can educate and know that this is a business, what do you need? But like the states, this is where it's hard, right? The states like Illinois is like, well, guess what? We're going to make this determination. And so do you even know, like, can a parent get an attorney? Again, costs money. What, if the teachers are saying, or if the child study team or your IEP team, whatever it's called, is saying, well, okay, you have your neuropsych. This is the diagnosis. We've now tested the kid again, which again, we all heard, when you get tested, it's just like all the time. Like, this is what you suck at. This is what you suck at. It's really fun. When they come up with that, is the parent allowed to say, well, no, I'm going to fight on this? Or do we not know like further details than that? Because I'm very curious about that.
They're given to them. They made up their own tests. What does this mean? So you can fight them, but it's a state. It's part of the state law. So you can always go after them, but it's makes it obviously makes it tough. It was put in there to make sure this. Yeah, we're in Illinois too, right?
Right.
The state is as fucked up as you get.
I know. I used to think New York was, right.
Well, it's.
We'll leave it at that.
You should see the fights that are going on here in Chicago public schools.
Well, didn't you have? Oh, go ahead. Finish.
No, it's in the Chicago public schools, right? The teachers union, they're asking, $700 billion. Was it $70 billion total package for the teachers? But where I'm going with this, the kids have never been mentioned once. Walking into, an IEP with special, the kids are never mentioned. It's never the kids. They're the best teachers in the world. What about the kids? Kids. We got some schools in in Chicago that is 0% graduating.
I know, it's crazy.
It's 0. What about the kids? The kids are the future of this world. What about them? That's what's so hard. That's what's so hard about when I say stuff about the special ed. That's what's so hard about when I say stuff about these schools. For specific, it's not ever about the kids. Ever. It's about that teacher. It's about that school. It's about that dollar. And the kids are on the bottom of the totem pole every single time. And that's what frustrates me. That's what pisses me off. That's what angers me. Why? Why?
Right. It's the dollar, and it's something has gone very, very sideways, and not a good sideways.
Dyslexia is the most corrupt business in the world. So, that's why.
Yeah.
Again, you talk about alcohol prohibition, right? Who got what corruptness, right? It's just the fact of the matter. The government's corruptness, right? And that's what dyslexia is. So that's why we've got to speak. That's kind of why we speak the way we speak. That's why we talk what we talk, is so that people have understanding that dyslexia is one of the biggest, most corrupt businesses in the world. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars. It's probably close to bringing the same money as the drug industry.
Mm-hmm. Right. And there's organizations, that have been around 75, 100. I mean, word blindness, that's what dyslexia was referred to. You guys have heard us talk about this all the time. And yes, there's stuff that's been happening in the research world. There's stuff that has been learned. But as Brent said, there's 0% graduation rate at some schools. Now, I'm sorry. Not every single one of those kids is dunce. Like, is dunce? Is that the word? Dunce? Dumb?
Dense?
Dense.
Where would you come out? Where would you try and use that fucking word?
I was going to say, because I don't like the word dumb and I don't like the word dense. I was trying to say, so I said dunce, whatever. Oh my God. Not everyone is like me today. There is just, it's like, you're in this area. This is what your family is. This is your home life, whatever it is. And it's not okay because it's not about the kid. It is not about the kid ever. It's a number.
Yeah.
It is. We've talked to many teachers that have left the teaching world because they were like, it like hurt too much, right? They're like, we couldn't, like, you can't do things. You can't say, hey, I think this kid is struggling, or hey, certain places you can, certain places you can't. Certain states have a little bit more understanding, if that's the word, certain states. I mean, they're better than Illinois. You know what I mean? Right. So there's Illinois.
Well, and, and I've been a part of a lot of worlds. The education world probably has the biggest ego that I've ever been part of.
Yeah.
The heads of colleges, you got to be the heads of, districts. They think that they're the smartest, and they think that they're best, and they know it all. They're number one. I've been professional athletes. I've been with CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. By far, education has the biggest egos of anybody in the world, and that's another reason why they're number one. They know best, never for the kids.
Right, because it's the smarts. Well, I'm going to leave it there, but that is, and as we learn these things, these are the things that we want to be able to share, because we want people to have knowledge and understanding. When you have knowledge and understanding, you can go into a meeting a little different. You can ask certain questions. You can stand up for yourself a little bit. There's things that can be done that so you're not like me going into the first IEP being, no, they're going to help. What are you talking about? No, they're going to be there. What are you talking about? I mean, it is the more knowledge you have, the more understanding you have, the more tools you have to be able to ask the right questions. Because maybe you're going to ask a question that they're like, okay, I don't know what to do here. And then they don't pull the wool over eyes, which we've seen time and time again happen. And then a parent goes in. I mean, I had a family that they were like, oh yeah, I started saying things, and they're like, who have you been talking to?
And that's a lot of times, if you say certain things and you form certain things in certain ways, you put them in their tracks right away going, all right, these people know what they're talking about. We can't, we can't do this. Other ones, all right, I know. So it's knowledge is power.
Exactly. We're going to leave it at that. Thank you for joining another episode of Word Blindness Dyslexia Exposed. You know what I say every single time: like, rate, review, and share, because you don't know who needs to hear this. We'll see you for another episode next week. Thanks, Brent.